Hi everybody, this is Julia and today I have a really fun project for you. I am going to be mixing watercolors and Polychromos pencils and I think once you see the entire motif that I stamped, you will have a laugh. So I'm going to be using the balloons, the balloon trio from this stamp set, and I'm going to be using this little house. First of all, I'm going to be using my Stamp-A-Magic. I'm quickly stamping the house off on the acetate sheet. And then when I prepared for the real impression that I need, I'm masking off these little lines off to the side because they indicate a snowdrift, because this is actually a Christmas stamp or a winter stamp, but I don't want to use it this way. So I'm inking up the stamp but masking off the parts that I don't need. I'm just removing this. Always remember to remove this. And then I am going to stamp it onto my card base here, directly onto the card base. I am arranging the acetate sheet, or I already had it arranged, and I'm sliding this into the positioner, the green part here, and now it goes exactly where I need it to go. There's the house. And I'm masking it off because I don't want to stamp on top of it. I want it to appear as if I'm stamping behind it, basically. So I once more start out by stamping this quickly onto the piece of acetate here, the plastic piece from the Stamp-A-Magic, and I'm turning it back and forth until I'm happy with the placement. I'm sliding the positioner back in, taking away the acetate and stamping down by sliding the acrylic block into the positioner. And that way I can control exactly where my rubber stamp goes, because I can't look through it. I need some other way to position it. That's why I'm using the Stamp-A-Magic. And I'm doing the same thing again after having masked off these balloons, because I want to have lots and lots of balloons. And maybe by now you know exactly what I'm referring to with this card. It's the movie Up, which is one of my favorite movies. I just love this movie for so many reasons. And I was actually in bed already, and then I suddenly thought of this motif, and I was like, I have those stamps. I have a house stamp, I have balloon stamps. Why can't I do this? So I can. There you go. I can. So much fun, telling you. So here we go. This is the final stamped image. I'm going to start out by coloring it with my Zig Clean Color Real Brush something markers. Watercolor, basically. You can use any type of watercolor that you have. Like, there's no reason why you need to use these specific brushes. And the paper that I'm using, the Strathmore Vellum Bristol 300 series, is not really a watercolor paper. That means the color doesn't really move around there as it would on watercolor paper. So you have to just take this into account, and I knew that. So I scribbled the color onto a piece of plastic, and I'm using a fair amount of water to make it like runny, to basically color my water, and that allows me to spread the color more easily on the surface that usually doesn't take watercolor. The reason I'm using it anyway is I like the color of the cardstock, of the paper, and it takes colored pencils very well, so we'll be needing that later. So the goal here is to basically put down a base color, because when you work with colored pencils, you need to put down a lot of layers to achieve proper blending, to have a smooth blend, so you don't see the tooth of the paper through the colors that you're putting down with the pencils. But if you go in and you add a base layer of color, for example, with watercolors, or with Copics, you could also use Copics, just on another paper in that case, then it's much easier to do blending with your colored pencils. So that is the entire reason why I'm putting down the watercolors first. I want to have a wash of color down first, so I don't have to put down an enormous amount of layers with my colored pencils. I want to make life easier for me. So I'm not taking a lot of care with adding shadows or highlights or details. I'm just laying down some color so that I can build on top of that later on. And I'm always using the same technique. I'm scribbling the color onto my piece of plastic, and then I'm picking it up with my brush and some water, and this is the first layer done. So it's now basically, it's colored. You could even leave it as is. You can leave that. That's completely fine. But I want to take it to the next level. So what I'm doing now is, before I continue, I want to create the background. Also to make sure that in the meantime everything dries perfectly. So I just grabbed some post-it tape. This is 2-inch post-it tape, and I'm drawing some cloud shapes on top of this. And then I fuzzy cut them out. There was no rhyme or reason to it, simply cloud shapes, little like half circles basically. And then I was like, yeah, let's put down this mask and let's start blending. And maybe you will see my problem. You know, I was ready to go. I was like, and just before I started, I was like, maybe I should mask off the house. Yeah, you can imagine how shocked I was. I almost ruined it. Now for this type of blending here, what you should do is, or what I'm doing, I'm only adding color at the very edge of the mask. And I'm basically making an upward flicking motion with my mini blender. And this way you only have ink at the very edge of the mask. And that gives these clouds this dimension. They really look like they're very dimensional clouds when you pull it off here. If you would extend the ink very far up, it would just be an undefinable mess, more or less. So less ink actually works better here. You can see just on the edge, and then I'm just using a very swirly motion to create like to soften it out. Now pull off the mask, and I just love this. It already looks pretty amazing. You could leave it as is. If you want to, you could just leave it, but of course I can't. So I'm grabbing my colored pencils using Polychromos pencils here, except for the white. The white is a Prismacolor pencil. I'm adding dark, blending a little bit towards the light with a lighter color, and then using white to blend it out. I'm doing the same here on the house, and then I'm doing the same on the balloons. I'm putting down the color with the colored pencils, blending it out very softly with the white. I'm not trying to really get like pressed down really hard right now. But now I'm coming in and I'm adding more color. It was a darker color. Now I'm blending this out with the lighter color, and my touch gets lighter. The more I go towards the highlight, the lighter my touch goes. And that is so I'm able to blend out towards the highlight. The white helps to blend out towards the highlight, but you want to soften your pressure. In the darker areas, you can apply more pressure, but the closer you get to the highlight, the less pressure you must apply. This will only lay down very little color, and this will allow you to blend towards white, as I'm doing here. If I would have applied the same pressure everywhere, it would be very difficult for me to blend towards white, because I would have a very sharp edge that is super hard to blend out. It took me quite a while to get to this. So like I've been doing this now for 2 years. I've been practicing this for 2 years, and I feel that I only now get like that I'm only now that I'm in control of over what I'm doing. So just to give you an idea of how long it took me and how much practice I had to do. So don't feel bad if you feel that you're not excelling at this right away. It does take a lot of practice, and that's completely okay. Now, of course, I'm coming in with my white gel pen and adding some highlights here and there after I'd finished all the coloring. And it's just a great way to accentuate some of the highlights here or to add contrast. And this is the finished coloring now compared to the previous one with just the watercolor. Once more, the finished one. You can see that the colors are much more intense now, which was the entire point of the exercise. And I feel I have more control doing this with pencils than with watercolors. That's why I choose to use 2 different mediums here. Of course, I had to add a sentiment, so I am sliding in again my acetate here, sliding this around until I feel happy with the placement of the sentiment. It was kind of hard to see this because the house is crooked, and I was like, is the sentiment crooked or not? I don't know. So once I'm happy, I'm bringing back the positioner here and my acrylic block, stamping down, and you can see I did not move my positioner. I lifted it up, I didn't stamp it perfectly, and I could slide back in that stamp because I had not moved the positioner. Lesson to be learned: do not move the positioner unless you're sure you've stamped it perfectly. Yeah, I'm just saying. And I thought I was done, but I wasn't, because I decided that I needed to add some shadow basically around the house. So I'm using 3 different shades of blue here, and I'm blending out with white, and I'm blending a lot. I'm really working hard to get this blended out towards white, and I just want to have a soft glow around the house so it stands apart from the background a little bit, so it's clear that it's in the foreground. You could also do this with grays, but I decided that blue was the right way to go. And here's a close-up of the coloration on the house. You can see that I added the glow all around, and I feel that it really sets the house apart, makes it really pop, and it was a really good decision to do that. Here you can see the balloons and all the white highlights that I added to all the balloons. And here's a view of the entire card. And you can also see, I hope, that I added white dots into the blue sky parts. And that's just an additional detail that makes the entire card seem to be a little more alive. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got inspired. Please leave me a comment or thumbs up, and I'll catch you again soon. Bye bye.